Greetings, everyone. Where we were last time is we added movement to our ship. This time, I'm going to create the ability to shoot bullets. So, a bullet is going to be just like any other game object, so we're going to use game object to represent it. Just like asteroids, there's possibly a whole bunch of bullets on the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the list that's going to hold my bullets, and inside draw, I'm going to copy the code that will let me move my bullets and draw them on the screen. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about when do I actually want to create the bullets. I'll respond to a mouse click to create the bullets. So let's start. Here I've already got an array list of game objects called asteroid list. Let's create another list of game objects called bullet list. And this will hold the bullets. Just like I had to create the asteroid list inside setup, I'm also going to need to create my bullet list inside setup. So bullet list. Okay, unlike asteroids, I wanted to create a whole bunch of asteroids to start the game here inside setup. I don't think it makes any sense to create a whole bunch of bullets to start the game. We want to let the player shoot them. So I'm not going to create anything to put in bullet list. Bullet list is going to start empty. But eventually, I'm going to have bullets in there, so inside draw, I'm going to need to loop through every single bullet and display it and update it. So I'm thinking I want to do something sort of like this, but for the bullet list. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that entire loop and paste it. And I'm going to do all the things, not with the asteroids, but with the bullets. So I'm looping from 0, except not to the end of the asteroid list. I'm going to loop to the end of the bullet list. And then I'm going to ask the bullet list to give me each bullet one at a time. I can still save it into a GameObj variable because bullets are game objects. And then I'm going to tell each bullet to update itself and draw itself. Okay, well that was pretty easy. So now all I need to do is figure out how am I going to create new bullets. I think I want to create a new bullet whenever we click the mouse. So let me show you one more method you don't know about. We're here underneath the draw method. So here's where draw starts, there's where draw ends. It's called public void mouse clicked. Or actually, let's do mouse released. I like that one better. So mouse released runs whenever you were clicking a mouse button, but then you let go. So whenever you released one. So this is going to run exactly once per mouse click. So what I want to do in here is create a new bullet object, and then I want to add it to the bullet list. Because up here in draw, which is running all the time, if there were anything in my list, I would be looping over it and making it move and I'd be drawing it. So all I need mouse release to do is to put a bullet in that list, and now all of a sudden that bullet is moving and drawing. Alright, so let's make a new bullet object. All our game objects are called GameObj, that's the data type. I'm going to call it bullet, new GameObj. And now we need some inputs. So let's think about what inputs. I need an X and a Y, and I need an X speed and a Y speed, and then my diameter is 0 because I'm not using it. And the last thing I need is an image. So I don't have variables for most of these things. So I want to think, alright, my bullet, where do I want to create my bullet? I think I want to create it at the same X coordinate as my player. So how do I know what X coordinate my player is at? Well, I have a player object, and the player object knows its own X coordinate. So I could say player.getX. That asks my player what's its X coordinate, and that's the exact X coordinate where I'm going to create my new game object. That type of thinking where you think, what information do I need? What variable has that information? How do I ask for it? Those questions are the questions that you're going to have to ask yourself all the time whenever you're doing a larger project with multiple classes. Alright, so I'll leave it to you to decide what's the Y coordinate, what should the X speed and the Y speed be. Let's go ahead and find an image for my bullet. In order to make the collision detection easier, I recommend that you make your bullets look like very tiny circles, or if you really want to, they could be like sort of long, thin vertical lines. Alright, I've searched for energy pellet sprite, and this looks like a fun one. So I'm going to go ahead and... yeah, I think I like this one. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to save the image. And just like last time, I've got to go and find my workspace. You can feel free to skip this part if this is familiar to you now. Here I am inside Assets. Oh, this is the wrong spot. Oh, no, it's not. I'm okay. And I'm going to call this Bullet. This time it's a JPEG. So now I'm going to go and open Paint.net. And there's my bullet.jpg. And I'll select the background and I'll delete it. And I'm going to crop closely over my bullet, like this. So I'll say image, crop to selection. And now I want to make my bullet a heck of a lot smaller. So it's 195 pixels. I want it to be maybe, let's see what 20 pixels look like. Yeah, that's about the right size for me, 20 pixels. Alright, so I'm going to save as this time, and I'm going to save it as a PNG file so that it will have that transparent background. So bullet.png. Okay. So what we'd been doing before is saying, like, whenever we need a p-image, we just create one here. P-image, image equals load image, and then I called it bullet.png. The problem with this is it's really slow to load things from disk. And I don't want to load my image from the disk every single time I click the mouse. I want to load the image once at the very beginning, and then just reuse it whenever I need it. So let's take this line of code and put it all the way up here at the top in Setup, where I'm loading my other images. Alright, so I can't call it image because I've already got something called image, so I'm going to call this one bullet img. Notice now, though, down here, if I try and use bullet image as my image, it won't know what bullet image is. And the reason why is because I declared my bullet image inside Setup, which means we can only see it inside Setup. So I've got to declare the image up here. So I'll say pimage, bullet image, and then very important, you've got to delete the pimage from here. If you don't, what you're saying is you have two different variables, this one and this one. They're both named the same. They're both named bullet image. You can tell that the computer knows they're different because one is blue and one is brown. And the problem with that is I'm loading an image into this one, but this one is still empty. And I don't want that. I just want one bullet image variable. So if I delete that, see, this is turned blue to match this one, and so now the image I'm loading is loading into the only variable I have, bullet image here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make changes here, and let's see what they look like. Okay, so now I've created my bullet object, but I've got to add it to my list. So I'm thinking, what's the name of my list? Aha, it's called bullet list. So down here, I'll say bullet list.add bullet. So I've taken my object and I've put it in the list. Let's see what this looks like. Alright, so what I notice is when I click, my bullet shoots down, and then it immediately loops off the bottom of the screen, and now my bullets are shooting right at me. So that's probably not what I want. So I'm going to change my Y speed, so instead of going down, my Y speed's going up. Alright, I've made the change. Let's see what it looks like now. There we go. So now when I shoot, the bullets are just going up. Alright, so the last step is doing the collision detection. I've got to check to see, are my bullets hitting the asteroids, and if they are, I think maybe I should destroy both of them.